Hey, how's it going? My name's John. I'm the crypto homie.
Hey, I'm Jillian. I'm the Bitcoin babe.
And I'm Jessica with Crypto Consciousness.
We are the Blockchain Millennials. Welcome back for episode 2. Hope everyone's doing all right out there. So to start off, we have a cool video we wanted to play for you guys.
For every transaction that we want blocked, there is another transaction we should celebrate for being unstoppable. Yes, there are some criminals making payments on the Bitcoin network because banks won't bank them. There are also pro-democracy activists in Belarus and anti-police violence protesters in Nigeria taking donations on the Bitcoin network because local banks won't bank them. Nonprofits Bisol and Feminist Coalition in Nigeria raised millions of dollars in Bitcoin donations last year. Donations they were forbidden from accepting by a corrupt or otherwise uncaring banking sector in their respective countries. In America, we don't always agree, but no matter what, we are tolerant and expect everyone to have the opportunity to stand up and fight for their own vision of the good. Crypto innovation embodies that aspiration. It's rough around the edges, but holds some values above all. Every node is an equal. No one's voice should be censored, and work rather than privilege is what counts in consensus.
Love that video.
Yeah, that's so good. I'm so glad you found that.
Yeah, posted it. And yeah, it really made me think about Bitcoin Ben always talks about this, about how true freedom means all inclusivity, all inclusivity.
Yeah, like that equal access, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you can't just have governments delegate who has financial freedom and who doesn't. You know, a true decentralized network like crypto and Bitcoin, it provides access to financial freedom for bad people, but also for everybody. You know, you can't delegate who gets access to this kind of stuff. And so it was just a really cool video that really depicts that.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think it really kind of went over exactly what excites us about this space, because it's not just, a lot of times people compare it to gambling, or maybe it'll be a good investment, treat it like a stock. But really, we're in this for the movement, and we're in this to provide equal access for everyone. And later in the show, we're going to talk about El Salvador and China and things that are happening in this space that can really create that equal like access. I know I keep using that word. I'm a teacher, so we talk about that a lot, for our students, but I see this parallel to that, where how can we make sure that everyone can succeed financially? And that's why I'm so excited about El Salvador and all of that, which we'll get into.
Yeah, well, and like I love that he brought up the part of like, yes, there are still bad people that use cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, but you're gonna find that anywhere. It happens with fiat too. So like, what are you really stopping? You're stopping people from the financial freedom that we should all have.
Right.
So like, you're stopping the good and the bad when you're trying to like halt cryptocurrency.
Right. Well, and the biggest money laundering that happens in the world, it happens with fiat, it happens with cash, because it is completely untraceable. So, there's been pallets of cash that have gotten sent all around the world from, we know who, and what kind of bad things have come from that. So the fact that you go ahead.
I was going to say, well, isn't crypto totally untraceable as well, or?
No, it's traceable. I mean, there are privacy coins that through hash functioning kind of hide the transaction, but no, Bitcoin is completely open, and it's anonymous, but any transaction can be followed, through the network. You just track the UTXO. You can actually track every UTXO back to its original block, and it's where it was originally mined. And so it's basically, the greatest way to track finance that there has ever existed. So
I think that's a really big misconception that people have is, well, it's all secret, right? It's crypto. Mm-hmm. But they don't realize that it is like a public ledger, that you can, yes, it's anonymous, but it's not like completely secret if I was to send you something, or if I was interrogated, right? If someone were to look into my wallet, my crypto wallet, they'd probably be able to see the transactions and what I was doing. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure though, but.
Yeah, I mean, and from a centralized exchange that we all, like Coinbase, where we do KYC, when you remove your coins to a private wallet, that's a public record, that transaction is public record. So if you were to get audited, that's where they would start, you know. And that's what's great about, you know, eventually the industry will move away from centralized exchanges, and once everybody has cryptocurrency and they're just doing peer-to-peer transactions, it's going to be much more difficult for, you know, governments to track who's sending what to who, but it still can be done. There's going to be experts that'll be able to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, plus there's Bitcoin ATMs, right? And for those, it's completely anonymous, right? Have you ever used one?
I've used the CoinDesk ATM a handful of times, and shout out to them. It's awesome. Yeah, there's still a portion of KYC. I think they have levels. I think it's under $1,000 purchase. I think all you need to put in is your phone number, and then the more, I think the biggest amount you can do per day, I think, is 3,000. And I think for that they require a little bit more KYC. It's still not as stringent as like Coinbase or any of these other central exchanges, but yeah, it's a little bit. Again, there's all tiers to the kind of levels of it. So
yeah, so it's all trackable. It's a lot harder.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people in the government who are trying to put the fear of this, oh, we're going to catch you, and you know, it's maybe, but they don't have the understanding of it yet. So yeah,
we see that with regulation being rolled out, is a lot of people in government that are trying to regulate it don't have a good baseline understanding of cryptocurrency and how to regulate it. So they're actually like having experts from the field go and talk with different state governments as well to make sure that they know what makes sense. How do we even regulate it? Because as we saw a few weeks ago, I forgot exactly what happened, but they were talking about regulation and they're like, it really wouldn't be effective. So we're also not against regulation in this space either. We know that that's going to happen. And the fact that government in the United States, different states and governments are also talking about regulation means they're not going to be like, oh, it's done. Like, we're completely banning it. You'd also have the revenge of the nerds.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and for the big institutions, the big money that's getting in, it's like they want regulation. They want, you know, specificity and clarity on what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. So regulation is good and bad. It's sort of bad for, in my opinion, the space in general. I think the whole point of cryptocurrencies is a just decentralized peer-to-peer payment network that doesn't need regulation. You know, people can participate at their own risk. But for these big institutions, for companies who are going to be holding, you know, public and private companies, they're going to be holding Bitcoin on their balance sheets. Regulation, I guess, for them is sort of compliance is necessary, unfortunately. Speaking of, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how many times we've seen this now, but this India stuff, it's, you know, it's usually just FUD. And most of the time when India's come out and said they're going to ban, you know, Bitcoin like 10 times now, and they never do, because they can't. At the end of the day, governments can't ban crypto because it's decentralized, open technology, open source. So, well,
in this article too, they did actually ban it, and then they fought it, right?
Yeah, I think it went to the Supreme Court actually, and then I think they ruled against or in favor, whatever. But it usually just doesn't pan out.
Yeah. And this article that I shared with you guys is from a couple months ago, but we see stuff like this happening and cycling through the news cycle all the time.
Totally.
So they literally will take stories and they're like, oh, here again, India's trying to ban it, or here again, like China, like it's, you know, we see these repeated.
Yeah, absolutely. But despite the bans, at the end of the day, users can still find ways around bans and still use this stuff peer to peer, because that's the great part about open source technology is all you need is a smartphone and an internet connection. Whether they catch you doing it, then you get in trouble. But I mean, either way, this stuff is here to stay, and no matter what governments say, it's going to be hard pressed to ban it outright. I mean, I don't know, with China kind of doing what they're trying to do, and I can pull that up and get rid of all the mining. I guess that's one way that, you know, governments can affect the network is by going after the miners.
Yeah. But I know that the president of El Salvador, he was like quoted saying like, yeah, come on over. So I mean, they'll locate. Right.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, so stuff like this, it has an effect on the network, but we saw something where, was it Miami, I think, was trying to basically just said, give us all of your mining equipment, you know?
Yeah, they want to be the crypto capital or the Bitcoin crypto capital of the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's
Kind of
cool.
Place
Go
to
ahead.
be for the capital for crypto.
Mm-hmm.
Well, humid though.
Yeah, I mean, so at the end of the day, this is what's cool about the Bitcoin network is that even the mining is so distributed all across the world and so decentralized that when a big hub of mining like China says, "Oh, we're not going to mine Bitcoin anymore," it makes it easier on the rest of the miners all over the world, and so places who are pro crypto can easily start making a ton of money from essentially the drop in hash rate and the drop in difficulty. So that's what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. I think is we're going to see the difficulty rate drop, and then it's going to make it easier for the rest of the world to mine Bitcoin and make it more profitable, and that's just it's great for everybody else besides China. So thanks.
Yeah, and one of the major concerns in this space for Bitcoin was the majority of mining was done in China.
Mm-hmm.
It really wasn't a big enough concern to prevent us from getting involved, though. That's how much we trust it. But now with some of that shutting down, it's going to be dispersed amongst the rest of the world, which is good. We want it decentralized as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna pull up the hash rate chart here. So yeah, when China said we're going to shut down all the mining, you do see in the network a drop off in the hash rate. But what that's going to cause is, so when this happens, the network has the ability to adjust itself. And this was the beauty of how, Bitcoin was designed and the network was designed. So every 2 weeks, the difficulty will adjust. So right now, the difficulty is still kind of up here thinking, it's still tough to mine Bitcoin right now. It's thinking that the hash rate is still up here. Every 2 weeks, it'll adjust. So when that does adjust, this hash rate is going to spike right back up, and it's going to make it, difficult. It's going to drop. It's going to make it a ton easier to mine this stuff and more profitable around the world. So that just goes to show how resilient the network is. There's really no one central authority that can say we're going to shut down Bitcoin and we're going to, stop the network. It's too big at this point.
And that is a big concern for people too. They're like, well, what if it gets shut down? It's like the internet, my money is built into the internet. What if that, what if it disappears? And this is showing, well, even if we have miners that set up Bitcoin shut down, it will still be redistributed. We'll still have our Bitcoin. It's not like, oh, bye-bye, that Bitcoin's totally out,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, and from what I understand, the blockchain was kind of set up so that once there's too many miners, they kind of lose their incentive, right? They're not making as much money, it's harder. And so people will drop off, and then so it'll go down, then okay, now it's profitable, then it'll go back up. So it's gonna be like a roller coaster. That's just kind of how they keep it going.
Yeah, exactly.
And that diminishing return caps it. Isn't like not asymptomatic, asymptotic. I don't know that word. When it approaches the asymptote of 21 million Bitcoin.
Yeah, and then
kind of like it's closer and closer, but never touches it.
Yeah, right. So there's the estimates of when the last Bitcoin will be mined, but I've heard 2040, I've heard 2150, so like the next 150 years. Like I think it's closer to where it just every halving, which is every 4 years, the amount of inflation gets reduced. And right now we're at 6.25, so in another 2.5 years, it'll be, half of that. And then it just keeps halving essentially every 4 years forever until I don't think we can reach zero. Eventually it'll be such a small amount that it'll act as zero, and the inflation essentially is done. But that's so far out in the future that, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Because people say sorry, go Jess.
No, I was gonna say then we're just dealing with sats at that point, right? So
Mm-hmm.
There's so little of Bitcoin left. I mean, there's so many sats per Bitcoin. So
Right.
And so the halving means over time, miners receive half of the amount per transaction that they're able to confirm on their blockchain, right?
Yeah. So what the miners are doing they're solving just a math problem, and the network is designed to adjust based on how many miners there are. So if there's more miners, the difficulty becomes more, more difficult, so that the gross amount of miners have a tougher time to try to average every block to be 10 minutes. So that's the difficulty is designed to adjust the network so that the block time at each new block that's added to the blockchain happens every 10 minutes. So that's the kind of the fluctuations you see. But yeah, so every halvening, you'll have every 10 minutes, half as much Bitcoin gets minted and created and introduced into the market. Gotcha.
Because some people also ask, well, what's going to prevent someone else from setting up a whole new mining facility and making as much Bitcoin as they want? And this naturally helps prevent that.
Right. Yeah. It's at this point, the Bitcoin network is too big for what's essentially called a 51% attack, where you have enough computing power to take over the majority of the network hash rate, the majority of the network power. It's just too costly at this point. It'd be hundreds of billions of dollars in electricity to do that. So the network is just designed, has the incentive to just play by the rules, add your economic energy, in this case, the electricity used to mine Bitcoin, just add that to the network instead of try to attack the network. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Jillian, you were talking about Venmo and how it's they added some fees.
Yeah, well, I think Jess, you had brought that up. Do you have any insight on that you want to share first?
Yeah, well, okay. So, Venmo was giving away $100,000 yesterday, and all you had to do was retweet or repost on Instagram and put your handle on there so they could send you $500. So they were giving $500 to 200 people. And I mean, of course I did it because I'm like, $500 for free. Yeah, I'm going to try. Didn't get it, kind of angry about Venmo, but it's fine. But then I saw a meme today and it said that Venmo is giving away all this money, and it was like a sleight of hand because they were trying to distract you from the fact that they just made all of their fees go up. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so then I found this article and kind of shared it with you guys, and I just think it's kind of crazy that they're trying to brush it under the rug so that people don't really notice it. And the percentage, it went up from 1% to 1.5% for you to send your money instantaneously, like within the 30 minutes that it takes to go from your Venmo to your bank account. So that went up for everybody. But where they really have messed with people, which is what is in this article, is people who have their side hustles or they accept payments through Venmo for services. Like I know, Jillian, you said you use it for your tutoring. And yep. So what they've done is that when someone now pays you, they can click a button that says it's for goods or services. And then Venmo automatically takes 1.9% plus, I think, 10 cents or something like that from you automatically. And so technically someone could hit that on accident and Venmo's just going to take it. So I think it's kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, because in the past when I was tutoring before I got my teaching credential and started teaching in the classroom, I was tutoring, and I probably had maybe about $10,000 a year on Venmo alone with my business. And I paid all my taxes and everything, but on Venmo, I had a personal account and not a business account because I knew that they would be taking a percentage as well. And I know with this goods and services, like if you're meeting with someone, you could ask them, I'm not saying do this, but you could ask them maybe to not click the goods and services to avoid that. I don't know how that works. And I don't know necessarily if Venmo's going to be tracking it to see. I think in the past they have seen are there repeated charges? Should we start charging this person as a business?
Yeah. Well, the other thing that they did was people used emojis instead of in the description. It's like, oh, what are you paying them for? And it was they would just put some crazy emojis, and
that's always what I do. Yeah, I just do some funny emojis and make it all cryptic and
make it fun.
Yeah, I always do the 1 to 3 day business day, which it usually ends up being the next day anyway. But still, the idea that you got to pay this big percentage to have your money instantly is stupid. But that's what you get with a centralized payment product like they provide.
Yeah, so. And so I guess what I think is all these side hustlers that are having these issues can just get a wallet you know, except Bitcoin.
Right.
I mean, except any kind of crypto you want,
Mhm.
and going forward, and then you don't have to worry about Venmo coming at you with fees and what have you. But
Mhm. Yeah, I think probably a great substitute for Venmo and PayPal and all of these centralized payment gateways are a wallet like the Divi wallet.
yeah,
And I use it all the time. I pay my landlord in Divi, and I have him set up a wallet. And this is the new economy. And he's able to receive, my payment directly in almost instantaneously for a few cents, the network fee. And there's just no way to beat it. Products like this are just gonna eat Venmo's lunch, and they already are.
So, and Venmo, you can buy and send crypto on Venmo, but it's only within the United States. So I was having a friend, like I had lunch with a girlfriend today, and she was telling me about her cousin in New Zealand who wanted to send her father flowers here in the United States when he was in the hospital. And she's like, "Oh, it's so difficult to give you money. Can I just pay you next time I'm there?" So my friend literally bought the flowers for her cousin from her cousin to her dad.
Mhm.
And I started explaining the Divi wallet, and she's like, "Well, what if she doesn't have crypto? What if she doesn't have this?" And I'm like, the Divi wallet is a very simplified, I feel like this is an ad for Divi, but it's a very simplified way of sending and receiving on your mobile wallet now too. And from what I understand is if I have a Divi mobile wallet and I send some to Jess and Jess doesn't have a Divi wallet, it will automatically create one for her if she opens that, right?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it generates a new wallet for a person just by sending it to them, and then that person can go in and fill in all of their credentials afterwards. But the transaction still takes place, which is just revolutionary.
so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, I know. I think we're heading to the future, and it's just a slow ride. I wish we could get there faster.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
You know what I wanted to touch base on with you was you said that you got your landlord to accept Divi. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because that's
I was going to ask the same thing. Like, how did you convince him? How'd the conversation come up?
Yeah. So when we first moved in here to our place here in Denver about 2 months ago, I just kind of got to know him, and I kind of told him what I was doing with the crypto stuff. And he, "Oh, that's really cool. I've been wanting to get into that." And I go, "Hey man, well, if you're interested, I can book a consultation with you, kind of explain the basics to you." And then so in that first consultation, I told him about Divi, and I told him about the ROR, the rate of return on Divi, and that really lit up his eyes. And he goes, "Okay, well that sounds really awesome," because he's got all this rental property and he's all about having that passive income. So that's kind of where it started. And I said, "Well, here, how about let me just, I have sort of living off of in part Divi at this point. So let me pay, my rent and help you get closer to starting one of your master nodes." So he was just all about it. And yeah, I think I paid him last month. I'm gonna pay him this month. And obviously it's subject to the market price. So I want the price of Divi to be a little bit higher when I pay him, so I pay him a little less. But it is what it is. But yeah, he's all about it now, and he really gets the idea of the peer-to-peer. That's what it's supposed to be for, is peer-to-peer transactions. Instead of me Venmoing him, and then he either has to wait 1 to 3 days or he has to take that transaction fee, he can get that value instaneously.
Yeah,
So,
well, and yeah, they would probably take that 1.9%.
probably, yeah.
And people
Go ahead, Jill.
people compare like a Divi master node and other like you can have master nodes with other cryptocurrency, right? Are they nodes?
No, there's a handful of master nodes. Divi's by far the easiest one to set up. I know Dash was sort of the first master node, but back then you had to know how to code. You had to literally, do the line for line code and set it up on your computer. It took hours, but now Divi just consolidated that process into just a one click, So there's a handful of staking coins, but I think there's only a smaller amount of actual master node coins.
Because people compare it to like digital rental space.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of like you're saying your landlord owns property, this is not necessarily property, but it still is kind of like a rental situation, not rental, like an investment property, but digital.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. And that's knowing that he was into the real estate stuff. That's how I framed it to him. I said, imagine that you had property in a digital network, that there was no upkeep. You didn't have to deal with bad tenants. You didn't have to deal with maintenance. It was just, there was a locked in ROR that all you have to do is stake into the network. And so when I kind of broke it down to him like that, he goes, well, wow, that's, you know, why isn't everyone doing this? And I was like, exactly. You know, it's, some people get it. I've given the pitch to other people and they're just like, oh, yeah, whatever. But, you know, some people who understand that idea, it really clicks, and, you know, others don't.
And to make a comparison, I don't know if this is correct, but for Bitcoin, you have mining, and that verifies transactions on the blockchain. And then with DIVI, you have master nodes, and that is also using your own computer or your own cell phone power to verify transactions using the master node.
Sort of. So with Bitcoin and the original sort of proof of work consensus, that was sort of the original consensus algorithm with blockchain, is the miners are the ones who validate transactions. They say, okay, does this person have enough funds to send? Is this a correct address? Okay, everything checks out. Okay, we'll add that to our block. Every 10 minutes, there's a block. So every 10 minutes, there's tens of thousands of potential UTXO transactions that get put into a block, and then the miner solves it, and then the transaction goes through. What powers that is the proof of work concept, which is electricity. So, you know, it costs a ton of money to run these miners because they have to guess tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of times to solve that math problem until they do. With proof of stake, which is what DIVI runs on, it's similar, but it's much more efficient, where you purchase enough of the tokens to I think DIVI only need 10,000 DIVI to stake. You have to have your wallet running 24/7, whereas that's where the masternode comes in. You can lock up, I think the lowest amount for DIVI masternode is 100,000 DIVI, so roughly $4,000 to $5,000 right now. So you just accumulate enough, you keep it in the wallet, and then you just one click start a masternode. And the masternodes are sort of the brains of the network, whereas the staking is the muscle of the network. The staking nodes are what actually they stake. I've watched it before. My funds in my wallet will disappear, will go down, like, you know, kind of a random amount, because that chunk of DIVI is getting staked to the network, and then it's completing the transaction. And then once the process is over, I get my funds back. Whereas, so you have the staking, which is the muscle, and then master nodes, which is sort of the brains, which sort of delegate and make sure that the staking nodes are doing the right stuff. So a little technical, but.
Thank you. No, that was such a great description, and helped me with understanding the difference. And is it more energy efficient to do something like DIVI compared to Bitcoin, or is it the same?
Yeah, theoretically, it's a lot more efficient because there's not that upfront cost of electricity. Whereas with miners, you actually have a physical, you know, unit, a computer, a miner, which you have to plug in, and then that expends electrical energy. Whereas with proof of stake, all you need is just, you know, a 120 volt outlet to plug your laptop in and keep it going. And so the proof of stake method is much more efficient than the proof of work.
Because I know our friend Divi Daddy was talking about that. He has mining facilities in different areas of the United States, and he's either selling them or shutting them down and going all the way into DIVI because he sees it as a lot more efficient, and he doesn't have to rent the properties, because it's like so much money and energy and like just a property to have the space and everything. It costs a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think proof of work models are always going to be around. I think the stability of the Bitcoin network is the biggest and best by far. So Bitcoin will always be there, and there's always going to be miners taking advantage of, you know, every 10 minutes there's newly, you know, minted Bitcoin. So that Bitcoin needs to go to somebody. So that'll always be there. But I think a lot of the layer 2 solutions, you know, Ethereum is moving under proof of stake, and just sort of, I guess, the everyday use cryptos might run on. Like a DIVI is a great currency, whereas Bitcoin is more of a store value, where you just, you know, it locks it up, locks your store value. Whereas DIVI, it's like, again, I'm using DIVI as a currency right now to pay, you know, my landlord. So that's sort of the example that I use.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I love that. Super cool.
All right. Any other things you guys want to go over?
Maybe we can just like do a little update on what's going on in El Salvador and Paraguay. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I'll pull up the what's going on in Paraguay.
And I forget, in episode 1, did we talk about El Salvador? I think we may have.
Yeah, I believe we did.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me pull up.
So also, so it looks like Paraguay is no longer going to be moving towards Bitcoin as a legal tender. I'm not really sure what happened there, but do you guys have any updates on that?
No, I haven't really seen what's been going on. What about you, Jess?
No, I read the article that Jillian had shared, and I think that it did say in there that they still want to use Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. They're just not going to make it a legal tender. So I think it's interesting. I think that maybe they're just like dipping their toes in, like they're kind of scared. Maybe I know that El Salvador just like they went in like hard. They were from the time that the president started talking about it to actually passing the law and everything. It was really, really quick. So I think that maybe they're just nervous, and I think that it might still happen for them, even if like right now they're like pulling back a little bit.
And so what they're saying too is, or they're going to be, the government is in El Salvador will be airdropping $30 to all the citizens that do join the state-sponsored crypto wallet called Chivo.
I think that's just such an awesome way to, airdrop the new currency into the citizens, and make it where they're going to have to, it's forcing them to figure out how this stuff works and then actually participate rather than just sort of, oh yeah, it's something we do, but we don't do it.
Yeah.
I think the most, sorry, go Jess.
I think it's important. I think it's important to show the citizens, like, this is what it is. You need to figure out how to use it because it's here to stay. And I mean, it's going to help them in the long run. And anytime I've tried to teach anybody about crypto, just talking about it is never enough. It's like once you actually physically show them a portfolio or like have them look at Coinbase or Binance but I hate Binance, but so not Binance, but Gemini, one of those other exchanges. They kind of feel like, oh, okay, so this is more real. And then when they are sending money themselves, like my mom, the first time she got into crypto, I just bought it for her and sent it to her wallet. And then she wanted to buy more. And I was like, no, this time you're going to learn. Like, I want you to be able to do this so that you're not waking me up in the middle of the night because it went up like crazy and you want to take some profits or you want to get some more and I'm not there. Like, I want you to know how to do this. And so now she knows how to do it. And it's really cool watching her because she's like, look what I can do.
Yeah. Unfortunately, people aren't going to be actually start doing this until there's the big run up, in the bull market. Yeah. And they're going to be freaking out. FOMO is this powerful drug, how do I get in? And that's, unfortunately, it's like right now is the greatest time. I wish people, would see the opportunity and say, okay, I want to learn how to do this now. I want to get my accounts open now. I want to start purchasing and then removing my coins now when there's not much volatility. No one's really interested because that's when it's easiest to do so. When we have these big run-ups and then that's when everyone's interested. The networks get congested, the exchanges get backlogged, and then you can't get your coins for 3 weeks. So unfortunately, people just have to go through that learning curve and the growth of the growth cycle of each bull market. So
eventually we'll all be in.
Eventually. Yeah, exactly. Once eventually I see everyone having crypto, and then once they know how to use it, again, we don't even need centralized exchanges. It's all just peer-to-peer at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's so beautiful too about El Salvador. I know we talked about that last time where like about 24% of their GDP is remittance, which means they're getting it from people in other countries. And typically that can be dangerous for the people in El Salvador if they're going to the bank and people know that they're grabbing cash from the bank that's being transferred there for them and leaving. And the banks take like 30 or 40% of that, which is crazy. So it really is not like when we're talking about the banks here, like the banks aren't necessarily our best friends.
No. They're our worst enemies.
I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, well, I know it's a great thing for them. It's a great thing for their citizens, even if they don't realize it yet. But they will. They'll understand. With their currency being debased the way it is, it's only a matter of time before the light bulb goes off and they understand that Bitcoin is the lifeboat off of their Titanic. So, all right, with that, it's a great episode. I think we're gonna wrap it up. And any last words from you two?
Just everybody who's watching, make sure to like, subscribe. Come back for episode 3 next week.
That's right.
Yes, and we are also on Instagram as the Blockchain Millennials, so you can follow us there. That's right. And if anybody is interested in a one-on-one consultation, all of our links will be down in the description, so you can check those out and book an appointment with us. So thank you. All right, guys. Bye. Bye. See you later.